Hey everyone, welcome back to the Seven Figure Seller Summit. Today is day 4. I'm thrilled to have a live panel. We're going to do Q&A. The topic is all about profitability, how seven-figure sellers are really maximizing their profits. And I'm super excited. We have several speakers coming back, presenters that joined us live today. So I'd like to quickly introduce everyone here today. First off, we have Anthony Confrancesco from PickFu. How's it going, Anthony? And where are you joining us from?
Hey everyone, I'm doing well. I'm right now in the Philadelphia train station, but
hmm
the internet's really good, and I'm excited to be here on the panel.
Excellent. So Anthony is on the move, and Anthony gave a masterclass on million dollar listing optimization today. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. Next, we have Jamie Paros. How's it going, Jamie? And where are you joining us from?
How are you, Gary, and all the audience? Hope you had a great day today. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, joining live. So thanks for having us.
Awesome, awesome. So Jamie's session was all about optimizing your supply chain. I do apologize. There was a technical difficulty with Jamie's session, so we are working quickly to get that fixed. Thanks for your patience, guys. We will extend the viewing period on that. So definitely check out Jamie's session all about supply chain optimization. Next, we have David Schomer. Welcome, David. And where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Excited to be here. I am joining you from southern Missouri, a little town called Festus, Missouri.
Awesome, awesome. The heartland of America. And David and his partner Ken gave a real masterclass on their complete roadmap and how they profitably self-manufacture in the US. It's an amazing story, really creative way that him and his partner as entrepreneurs were able to move their manufacturing out of China to the US and still be more profitable than when they were sourcing from overseas. So if you guys have any questions about US manufacturing or supply chain or listing optimization, now is the time, guys. Next, I'd like to welcome our friend Paul Barron. How's it going, Paul? And where are you joining us from?
I am in Loveland, and things are good here. It's been like unseasonably warm, so my kids have been out like playing outside all day.
Awesome, awesome. Glad that Paul's able to join us, and he gave a masterclass on the power of a brand, how you can sell it over twice the price of your competition. So, if you have any questions about branding, pricing, Paul's the man to ask. He also gave a quick overview about influencers and TikTok as well. So, I know that's a hot topic for a lot of you guys. And last but not least, we have Jason Hanan. Welcome, Jason. And where are you joining us from today?
I am in the home office in Long Branch, New Jersey, on half babysitting duty. The
Awesome.
other half is here, so I'm not really doing so
Yes.
well.
Okay, okay. I know how it is, man. I split my day between my business and daddy duty and being a husband, so totally understand. I'm sure a lot of the people watching out there as well. I mean, that's why we're doing this, right? So we can spend more time with our families. We can fire the man as David is really proposing. So I'm super excited to have everyone here. And because we are live, guys, if you can see and hear us, if you can type your name in the chat. Where are you joining us from? That would be awesome. So just to quickly reset the room again, everyone knows right now 2022 is the Wild West in e-commerce. On one hand, you have this golden opportunity. E-commerce is forecast to generate $1 trillion in sales in 2022. It just can't stop growing. There's opportunities to exit your business, to sell your business with companies like Thrasio. We're seeing multiples in the 5x to even 7x range. And then at the same time, there's potential pitfalls, just like in the Wild West. You could get shot down. So you have the whole supply chain. Perfect storm, we're still dealing with $20,000 containers from China. We're dealing with increasing PPC costs. We're getting increasing Amazon costs, the changing TOS, you name it, right? So that's why I really wanted to focus today on profitability. I feel like this is one of the biggest things that sellers can really leverage to offset a lot of those cost increases. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, top line is a vanity figure, bottom line is, the real deal, profitability. And it also matters if you decide to exit, right? So to kick things off, I'd like to just put a question out there to you guys, and everybody watching, feel free to ask questions. I'm curious, what's your number one challenge right now in your business, related to profitability? Drop it in the chat. There's a golden opportunity. We have 7-figure sellers. We have e-commerce experts. I mean, just that one thing can really, add an additional zero to your bottom line potentially. All right. Now, it could be about pricing, could be supply chain, could be listing optimization or sourcing or branding. I mean, we just have like so much like talent here in the room. I'm amazed. So I'm super excited. All right. So to kick things off, guys, talking about profitability, there's like so many different profit levers that sellers can pull right now, right? So I'm curious, what would you guys suggest? I mean, in your view, what is the number one profit lever that sellers should be pulling right now, in your opinion? So who'd like to take a shot at this first?
I'll tell you what, I would say two things in my opinion. One would be PPC. We have cut our PPC spend by 70% this year, and we have seen organic sales increase. What we found was we were cannibalizing. We were bidding on a lot of keywords that were otherwise be organic, and so that's one. And the second thing is sales price. I think it's something a lot of Amazon sellers are really sensitive to. And the method that we've been doing is, say we have a product that sells for $19.99 and we want to get to $24.99. What we'll do is we'll track our BSR every week, which stands for bestseller rank. And we go up in 50-cent increments. And if we see it dramatically fall off, then we'll pause. But with shipping costs this year, I mean, your margins get squeezed and you just have to do something. And things can only get so much cheaper. And so those are two adjustments that we've made that have been helpful.
Awesome. Cut PPC spend, beware cannibalization, also sales price, gradual adjustments. Speaking of sales price.
Yeah, no, I was going to dovetail
Jason.
into what I was going to dovetail into what David said. We have not seen the same success with lowering PPC. I wish we did. But what we've been doing is employing that same strategy that David was talking about as far as increasing price, and doing it in that slow method. And we're using, as well as bestseller rank, we're also looking at the individual velocity of the item, as well as the conversion rate data that Amazon gives you. That data is usually a couple days old. So you have to use really a combination of all three of those, between the rank, the velocity, and the conversion rate, to try and really understand where your prices can maximize. But if you're not trying to push your prices up, then you're in trouble in this marketplace. Everyone is really going through the same thing. So, inflation is real. And if you're not, if your costs are going up, everyone else's costs are going up. So you have to strategically try and increase your pricing.
Yeah, and I love what Jason shared earlier today in his masterclass, talking about how to increase your price. Because I know a lot of people are scared to increase your price, right? I mean, sometimes if you price it over your competition, maybe people are going to stop buying, you're going to lose your rank. So I think, there's a fear, but Jason really, broke things down in a very systematic way. So highly recommend that you guys check out Jason's session. And for those of you guys that are watching, I'm curious, I'd like to ask the question. Have you adjusted your price since this whole supply chain perfect storm and an increased shipping costs? Or maybe you've kept it the same. What are you guys doing? Can you type that in the chat? I'm curious to know. And then meanwhile, I'd like to quickly welcome some of our attendees. We have Facebook user, greetings from London, guys. And we have Omar joining us from Bogota, Colombia. Welcome back, Omar. We have ATR Anupam from India. Great job. Great to see you back. And Chinedu from Miami. Excellent. Speaking about price, we have a question from Chinedu. So what price point would you say is a good range to sell products? Many platforms say $20 to $70. Any advice you can give on that?
Can I answer that? I'm
Yes.
Give you a snarky-ish answer. The highest that you can sell it at without cracking a smile. Anybody that's going to give you a price range, come on. Because what are you going to do? You're going to sell a 1 ounce bar of gold for $70. I mean, you got to think about the market, right? Like, what is the market demand? Not only that, but if you're looking at, in my opinion, if you're looking at pricing in the middle of the pack, you're looking at things wrong. You really need to think. You really need to think, like, what is the absolute most that you can charge? And so if you studied economics in school, which most of us should have, right? There's this bell curve, right? Of like high price, low price, demand, all that sort of stuff, right? And you kind of want to be at the high end. I actually would want to be on the other end of the high, like before it starts to diminish too far down. And the reason for that is that I would want to be on the higher price end. Because then I'm not competing in the mud. I'm not competing against people that are, forever having to lower their prices. And there's not every market, you can do that. Like if you're selling, I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example. I'm getting over COVID, so like brain fog is real. But let me give you an example. This answers your other question too about profitability. In my estimation, the number one lever that you should pull is build a raving audience. One of my favorite authors, in my opinion, he is the best novelist of the modern era. His name is Brandon Sanderson. He did a Kickstarter. He launched it 3 days ago. Within less than 24 hours, he raised $13 million. Like 30 seconds, I took a screenshot. 30 seconds later, he raised another $50,000. And it kept going up. Right now, it's $19 million. Well, how did he do that? One, he has a really insanely raving fan of followers. How did he do that? He focuses on creating the best content and delivering the best books that he can write. So if you're asking yourself, how can I do the least to get by and make the most money? You're asking yourself the wrong questions. You need to think about how you can do the best, solve your customers' problems so much better than anybody else that they would fly across the world and pay 200% more for your product than anybody else. So that's what I would say. I think there's people that are saying focus on these. You have to understand that like these courses are just general rules of thumb, and so you have to understand like look at the market. What are you trying to sell, and do you even know anything about it? If you don't sell in that. Like you need to have experience about what you're selling. Don't just look at Black Box or Jungle Scout or whatever and find something and say, well, I'm going to start selling this. If you have no idea what the market is, don't go there. Like if you can be an expert in something, like that's why Brandon Sanderson he's net 19 million and it keeps going up. Like it's going to be 20 million by the end of the day. Because the dude, what does he do for fun? He writes. What does he do to relax? He writes. Like he's just really, really good at writing. So that's what I would say.
Excellent. Great perspective, Paul. Thanks for sharing. Jamie or Anthony, any thoughts on this or
Profitability or the question?
Let's go back to profitability. We've been
I
we
think
covered
Paul
pricing.
covered the question pretty well.
Yeah.
For me, profitability, like we're all talking about these really important things, but we're talking about these things because I think some people have left a few things behind. If you have to think about the last 12 to 16 months, shipping costs have gone through the roof, 3PLs, inventory limits have now forced us to start using 3PLs and drip feed into Amazon. And that makes us look at everything else in the business to try and rein in profit and margin back in because all these things have gone up. But shipping's not sexy. I get that. And I think the people's knowledge around that whole supply chain is being left behind, and people have had to start forcing themselves to learn a little bit more about shipping and supply chain and 3PLs and how that whole industry works because it is the wild, wild west, to be honest. And so, things like, master cartons, pallets, storage fees, receiving fees, labeling fees, all these things in a perfect world, we used to just get our products manufactured, listen to the recommendations of suppliers and say, hey, we get this many units in a carton. We get this many units You know, you work that out at your end with the 3PL. The 3PL receives your container, they put it onto pallets, and you get a bill at the end of the month for 42 pallets in storage. And everyone's like, okay, that's just what it is. But it's not what it is. I come from a logistics background, and when I came into the Ecom space and the Amazon space, and I think I was in China 5 or 6 times in 2019. Every time we went there, we launched more product. And I'd spend hours with these manufacturers going, I don't understand why you're putting my product like that in those cartons. And then at the US end, it's not going to work. And then, you know, my SPDs and my LTLs aren't going to work and all this sort of stuff. And it just didn't make sense to me. The reason why it didn't make sense to me is because Amazon have thresholds. We all know that. Their carton limits, their pallet limits, all that sort of stuff. And 3PLs have been operating in days gone by where it's just 50-inch pallets in storage, and instead of getting 30 pallets in storage, you're paying 45, and people just get this bill for like, you know, $1,800 for the end of the month and go, why is this so much for storage? Okay, I've got 48 pallets in storage. Well, we turned that on its head with ShipSavvy, and over the last couple of years, I've been developing this software to really optimize your supply chain. So from, you know, your packaging, how that looks in master cartons, we do 3D renders and 3D interactive graphics and build your master cartons and pallet and your containers, everything from scratch for you just by entering in your product sizes and dimensions and weights. So every time I was in China, I was left alone with a pallet and a measuring tape and a scale. And so just leave me for a couple of hours. I need to work out, you know, is this thing going, you know, is this thing going like this? Is it going like this? Is it going like that? How many am I going to put in? Like, they're saying, oh, we'll put 20 in. I said, look, it doesn't work, you know, because in the US, it's not going to work. And I was a little bit, you know, pedantic about it. So I said to my wife, there's got to be some technology out there to help me do this because it's taking me hours, you know. And so we built it. And, you know, Amazon sellers, we've only been live after a couple of years of building this thing for about 8 weeks. But, you know, there's so many sellers around the world getting benefits from it. You can store your products and your brands and all sorts of stuff in there, create your container loads. You can send things to your 3PL and say, hey, I need to be stacked like this. And one tip I'll give before I pass it over to everyone else is you have to really start taking back control. So people are leaving this up to suppliers and people are leaving this up to 3PLs, and it doesn't have to be that way. But the thing is, we've always left it like that because we've known nothing about it. But now there's an opportunity to get back control because, you know, your suppliers and your 3PLs, they may have your best interests at heart, but no one can work these things out physically. It's just a bit hard without technology. We've built a pretty insane algorithm that does this all for you. And lastly, if you're using a 3PL that doesn't cater for Amazon specifics, you know, all the 72-inch pallet height stuff in storage, then you're paying too much for storage. I should say that most of the Amazon 3PLs that have pivoted to help sellers are doing all these things now. So get on board with 3PLs that are helping Amazon sellers. I know there's fire restrictions and stuff like that. When you start stacking pallets up in racking in warehouses and stuff like that, there's, you know, there's fire department regulations and all sorts of stuff, but there is space in those warehouses for 72-inch pallets, and the prices are almost the same. And people are just paying this money every month to these 3PLs, and they've got inventory limits now, and they're forced to use 3PLs. I think people need to start really focusing on the supply chain and getting those 1%ers right.
100%, Jamie. I feel like one of the nuggets you dropped is, you know, when dealing with suppliers, a lot of times we just take what they give us for granted when it comes to like how many units you can put in a carton, you know, the box size, you know, but, you know, smart sellers right now, you know, we got to really pay attention to the details, right? I mean, in the Wild West with these high shipping costs, you can't just take what they give you. You can actually optimize that because, you know, those guys, they're making products. They don't know about like the Amazon thresholds. So, you know, we really got to take it in our own hands. And, you know, Jamie has developed this awesome tool, ShipSavvy. They literally can just like automate the whole thing. It will tell you exactly how to put those boxes into the container. It's almost like, a game of Tetris, you know, like those old school video games. It's like, you want to get the Tetris, you want like those lines, right? You don't want like those empty spaces, like, you know, messing you up. It's the same principle, guys. So, you know, definitely got to double down on that. So, yeah,
cool.
great
It's
stuff.
Funny. I had heard about your tool, Jamie, and I was about to ask, like, isn't there a tool that you can do that? And it's your tool.
Look, there are some pretty sophisticated supply chain tools. I reckon you'd need like a college degree to sort of work them out. They're pretty full on. I've looked at them, I'm in the space, and I've looked at them and gone, oh, look, I just can't deal with this. This is too full on. But Our program is just for Amazon sellers. It's simple. It's all Amazon thresholds. It doesn't go over. It designed everything, optimizes everything for Amazon sellers only. So at this stage, but it's pretty cool. There's nothing really that, because what happens, you might enter in a product like this, whatever it is, just some headphones, whatever packaging size you got, and you enter it in, and we actually design the cartons, but at the same time, the algorithm's designing the best carton for the pallet. There's hundreds of combinations happening, and then it spits you out results. You can go, hey, 3PL, stack my pallets like this. I'm getting an extra 150 units on a pallet. Like it's insane, the testing we've done. And, like I said in the start, it's not sexy. People don't want to really want to know about that. They want to talk about the important things. And I get it too, like the PPC and the marketing and the audience building and all that stuff. But at the same time, you're getting these bills every month from these logistics companies, and they're just smashing your business.
Jamie, I own a 3PL for Amazon sellers, and it's a very sexy topic because all the 3PLs, we don't have space either. So if they could have just gotten it right from the manufacturer side, we're opening boxes all day long, just like, what are they doing? And I'd say one out of every 5 sellers maybe gets it right. So everybody's going to be on the same page. Like, I don't think people understand that this is something that you can tell the manufacturer, do this in this way. They can make any box you want when it's over, when they start. But once it's already in that box, it's pretty much too late. So if they get it right from the beginning, everybody across the whole supply chain is going to be way, way happier. So
the thing that I found too, Jason, which is a great point, suppliers have got their standard packaging, but we all try to enhance products. We might add a bundle, or we might see something that's a bit fragile, so we enhance the protection of what's inside it. Then, all of a sudden their standard packaging is just slightly changed. And this is a game of centimeters and millimeters and inches, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm in Australia with that sort of measurements. But once you change that box, their standard recommendation just goes out the window. Because when you're talking pallets, 40 by 40 inch and 40 by 48 inch and 72 inch, things just change with the slightest alteration in anyone's packaging. And then they go, hey, we've changed this packaging. I love this final sample. What do you think? And they go, oh, we'll get 14 in a carton. And you go, thank you very much. That sounds awesome. And that's it. End of story. And it just doesn't work out. You get it to the 3PL, you get it to you, Jason, and, your team's trying to work out how to stack these things on a pallet. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Amen. Love it.
There you go. There you go. And Jamie has generously offered a 10% discount off of ShipSavvy's year subscription, and you guys can use the coupon code 7FSS10 off at shipsavvy.com. Is that right, Jason? I'm sorry. Is that right on Jamie?
It's a bit of a mouthful. I should have made an easier code for you, but yeah, that's right.
All right. Excellent. We have a question in the chat regarding pricing. As we know, the biggest pain is high logistics cost. How do we factor in? Is it here to stay? Many sellers I know are being priced out due to this. Is there any solution? Any thoughts, guys?
I'd love to answer this one because myself and a business partner of mine also involved in, yourself, Gary, the Endgame Network with Michael. We have a lot of people in our mastermind, and we work on a surcharge method when we're dealing with suppliers for the first time. So if this is someone who's looking at launching a product for the first time, we deal with a surcharge method. Well, what's a surcharge method? Always get to your final sample. When you're happy, start negotiating your prices based on a full container. What does that mean? Well, sometimes some products, smaller products, you may never always order a full container, and you never will get to order a full container depending on the size of your product. But there's so many nuances. But, even like a first order of 250 units could fill a 20-foot container. It depends on what size of this product we're talking about. But the surcharge method is this, and it's worked over and over and over again for people that we know and ourselves. Negotiate your price on a new product on a 20-foot, 40-foot container, depending on what size the product is. And let's just say, for argument's sake, that unit price is $10 to fill a container. Then you say, okay, but I'm only comfortable with ordering, say, 500 units to start off. Can we work out a surcharge? What that means is they might say, okay, well, for 400 units, it's going to be $14, not $10. And you agree to that. But when you do start ordering containers, can you drop it back to the $10 price and the difference of $4, can you refund me or put that on the next container? And then you've always paid that unit price. It happens every time. So we'll test the product out with 500 units. We'll pay $14, not 10. Then with the next order or the third order, we'll fill up those containers. They give us the difference back. And we always paid $10 all the time. It's
So
a
you can
really,
actually,
really,
like in other words, you retroactively get that surcharge back,
correct.
if I'm understanding correctly.
Correct.
Interesting.
Negotiate on a full container price. You're always going to get the real cost of what these things are going to be able to get for you. You know, they'll always like to deal with you with full container prices. Don't worry about MOQs, and then say, hey, okay, I want to test out 4,500. I'm willing to pay a little bit more. What's that going to look like? Get it in writing, write it down together. And then when you start ordering your 20-foot container or your 40-foot container, ask for a surcharge. You'll be surprised how many suppliers and manufacturers will give you back that 400, 800, 1,200, whatever that difference is when you start ordering containers, and you always paid it from the beginning.
Nice. What is that method called, Jamie?
It's just a surcharge. Surcharge method, we call it. So the surcharge is the $4, the difference between what you should be paying for a full container and what you're paying for a smaller order.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. I mean, traditionally, I come from a supply chain background as well. We would negotiate at different price points, like let's say, for 10,000 units, for 5,000 units, and with an MOQ of 500 units. So we would see the price spread. Obviously, the more you order, the lower the price, right? But we didn't think of, implementing that surcharge for that price difference and say, hey, can we get that back? We just paid that price. So I think that's brilliant, Jamie. That's a huge nugget that that we just got today. Yeah. Awesome. And yeah, Omar says, wow, that's amazing. Excellent, guys. Excellent. All right. So we've covered several topics related to supply chain. Yeah.
Can I throw in something really quick about the logistics
Paul,
there?
please do.
So in June 2020, $1 was 7 Chinese yuan. Now, $1 is $6.30, or $1 is $6.30. So the Chinese yuan is higher in strength. So basically, our dollar is, well, because it's not going as far. One of the things that we did, again, COVID brain, I apologize. I have a friend who's a sourcing expert.
I think that's like a 10%, or if my math is right, like maybe 8 to 10% difference that you could potentially negotiate for a better price. I think that's what you mean, right?
Yeah. So one of my friends is a sourcing expert. We had negotiated a 15% discount, and he was like, I would have asked for 30. And like it wasn't a negotiation. We just asked for a 15% discount, and they were like, okay. And my buddy was like, you should have asked for 30. And I was like, damn it, why didn't we talk to you first? But that's one thing too, is like, don't forget that you can just like say, hey, shipping costs are insane. Would you split the difference with us? Not only that, but the tariffs are about to expire, or the rollback on the tariffs are about to expire. And this is one of those things that if you look at partnering, and that's another thing that we're kind of odd ducks in the space. Our number one product was the first product that we ever launched, and it still sells really well. We still use the same manufacturer that we first found 7 years ago, which is pretty unheard of, right? Like most of the time, people have a lame duck product and then they get new suppliers. We have more suppliers now for different product lines, but we have a really good relationship with our manufacturing team, and that's what we call them. They are our manufacturing team, and so they understand, like, hey, if we go out of business, you lose your largest customer. And so you really need to work with us to stay afloat. So if you're feeling the pinch, I cannot overexpress the power of relationship, especially in the Eastern market, or working with, if you have Chinese counterparts. The idea of guanxi, which is basically business, it's relationship over then business. If you can build that relationship with people, really all it is just treat people with respect and and just be nice to them. Ask them about their kids, ask them about their families, ask them about their grandparents. What are they doing? What did they do for the Chinese New Year? Did you have fun? Did you enjoy your time? Build a relationship with people, because if you treat people with respect, people like to do business with people that they like. And people like to give discounts to people that you like. It's not an Eastern or Western mentality. But for some reason in the West, we have this idea that we just have to put the screws to people. If you look at people as people and you treat them with respect, and you say, so our contact is Catherine. Hey, Catherine, we had a really rough year. You know that shipment that was supposed to come in June? Yeah, it was delivered in September. We missed our entire season. We need a discount. Okay. Now, I wish it would have gone to Patrick, my buddy, and said, hey, what should we ask for? Instead of saying just 15%, we could have gotten probably 30 or 25%.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, supplier negotiation, that's one key to increasing your profitability. Whether it's what Jamie said about, that surcharge and getting it credited back, or, negotiating with, through your better relationships with your suppliers. Yeah, definitely do that, guys. That it will help with the bottom line. So I'd like to ask Anthony. Anthony, what's your recommendation? I mean, if you had the lever to pull for profitability, what do you say?
Well, so the first thing is, for sure, I want to just reflect the comments that have been made earlier, right? Anyone trying to go and compete in the mid-range or on the low range in terms of price, in terms of brand, is, in my mind, absolutely making the wrong decision. We should really be trying to sell premium products at a premium price, and I think going any other direction is the wrong move in the long term. Two other levers that I think are really reasonable to pull. One is around sponsor brand video. Like, we're all talking about PPC and how PPC costs have increased. Techometrics did a really cool industry report where they broke down all the different PPC spends, and sponsor brand video was actually the only PPC class that didn't go up in price. It actually maintained throughout the whole year. And the reality is many sellers aren't even exploring this. And so it's much lower competition. And if you put together a convincing video, you can actually drive a lot of traffic profitably to your listings versus just trying to do some of the more standard ad types. The other thing too, in just terms of another lever that you can pull that doesn't really cost anything and it doesn't take a lot of work, is just playing around with the Amazon Manager Experiments tool. I talk to every agency owner, every brand owner, and very few people are doing this. And so the reason I like it is it's something that you can just have running in the background, right? You're just going to test an alternate version of your main image or test an alternate version of your A+ content, and just let it sit in the background. If you have like 10, 15 different ASINs, just let it go and see. The cool thing is, if you get those gains, once you get the gains, even if it's just single or double digit, increase in sessions or conversion, once you have those gains, they're going to maintain itself. And so I'm a big fan of, like, you put in the upfront work on making your listing, to convert higher, making it look better, building out your brand. And it's like this one-time work, but once you've done that work, it's going to keep giving you gains time after time after time. And so I'm looking at what are the ways that you can do that and spend the least amount of effort and really just test and see what works. And then later down the road, you're going to see those gains on an ongoing basis for the brand.
Excellent. I agree. I think, sometimes it's those little tweaks that you make. Is almost like if you're tweaking your car, right? If you can upgrade your engine and, get some more horsepower out of it, like, what you do with optimizing a listing, you're just going to get, more performance the rest of your car's lifetime, right? So I think these small tweaks will have a lot of big effects. And then we have some comments in the chat. Samuel said, you must be a very big customer to ask for those kind of deals. Most of the factories are also selling on Amazon and Walmart and have customers all over the world. What do you guys say to that, to Samuel's comment?
I would say that if you don't ask, you don't get. And so I would, the worst case scenario is you ask and they say no, and you're right back where you started. One book that I read a while ago is called Never Split the Difference. It's written by an FBI hostage negotiator, and everyone should read that book as it relates to negotiating price. One thing that I do is I always give them the choice between two options. I will order 500 units at this price, or I will order 1,000 units at this price. And by them being able to answer that question, they feel like they're in the driver's seat, which everyone wants to feel. It's human nature. So those are my comments about your question.
The other thing, if I could just chime in real quick, like Paul is just giving an example of he's making a big negotiation, but the other thing that you got to realize is, like, first off, Jamie just gave a fantastic example of a really creative way to negotiate, right? Where, he was actually getting a discount in the future. He's not looking for the discount now. He's just trying to arrange a discount in the future. And so I think where negotiation, where a lot of people go wrong, especially beginner sellers, is they're just trying to negotiate just on price. They're like, hey, can I get a lower price? Can I get lower logistics costs? But there's a million other ways that you can actually get benefit, that it's not purely price. So you can change your payment terms, right? And so if you get creative and think like, okay, I'm not just trying to save money in this moment, maybe I'm trying to save money later, or maybe I'm trying to distribute the manner in which that money is paid out. Like, you might not be a big enough seller to go ask for those kind of deals, but I can guarantee there's something that you can do from a creative standpoint that will benefit you versus just going in and taking whatever deal is presented to you from that manufacturer right from the start.
Yeah, I would, to speak to that too, I would say this is a common thing that many people were asking during the tariff times, where you would say, hey, our tariffs just increased by 25%. So that's a hard cost that we're going to have to pay. We can't really pass that along to our customers. Would you mind splitting the difference with us and give us a 12.5% discount? And again, the idea is, if you express the desire to partner, and that's key, partnering long term, right? If you treat people like they're just a wash rag that you're going to throw away and go somewhere else, of course they're not going to want to work with you. But if you have this expressed desire that, listen, we are planning on growing, and it does take some, it's when you're getting started, you don't have that much room to negotiate with. It's just plain and simple truth. But as you grow, and let's say if you have a track record of your sales are continuing to increase over time, one of the tactics that we've used is that we've said, okay, based on our current sales trajectory, we anticipate ordering X number of units this year versus Y last year. That represents Z growth. Would you consider, if we can commit to ordering Y units, will you give us this price? And so that's where you're not saying you're not ordering it all right now, but you say over this period. And then obviously, so that's up to you to make sure that you can hit those numbers. But that's another thing that we've used in the past, and that was one way. I think we did like 110 net 30, which is, so that's 1% discount if we paid everything within 10 days of the invoice. Otherwise, it's net 30 from the time, and we actually did it from the time it was delivered. So that means that it's on the water. So shoot, if we would have, I wish we would have done that for this last shipment, because it was like $100,000, and we had it all out of pocket. Had we done the payment terms that we ourselves flipping negotiated, we would have had that $100,000 that we could have done something with. I don't know. That is neither here nor there, but yeah.
Excellent.
One more thing I'll just add there, Gary. If you can see the language that all the gentlemen are using, everybody's being commercial. And I think some of these new sellers, they just need a little bit more, push in the right direction on the language they're using as well. If you think about a Chinese sales team, over at a manufacturer's sales team, they're all sitting there in a room, and I've been in that room. There's 5 or 6 people just around computers answering, emails and phone calls and all sorts of stuff. And if you're going to stand out and get attention in that sales room, you got to be commercial, and you can hear the language that everyone's talking and using. One thing that is really cool is to lead off the bat saying, hey, checked out your website. You've got all the certifications that we need for our business. We're expanding into blah, 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 and coming at from a real commercial angle. I've seen you've got 100 employees. That's something that we need to look at because of our status of our business and where we're heading and blah, 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 and talk from a commercial standpoint. You're going to get those sales team. You're going to get the attention of that sales team real quick. So, you can see Samuel's question from the start. Just have a little language. You must be a very big customer. He doesn't think highly of himself. Like, just change the language and how you approach things, and that'll make all the difference as well.
No, that's a great tip. Jamie. I feel like that's the mindset, right? I mean,
Mm,
there are big customers, but there's also smaller customers with growth potential, right? So it's your job to stand out from that. And like what David shared earlier, 100%. You never know unless you ask, right? That's one of my,
exactly.
when I was getting my feet wet in supply chain in China a decade ago. I remember my former boss, like he really taught me that, and for the culture, especially in China, it's like everything's negotiable, right? I mean, they're not gonna get offended. Granted, you're not gonna be like rude or offensive, but to negotiate that, I mean, it's expected,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So this is really good
of
stuff,
course.
really good stuff. Um, so we talked a lot about sourcing, supply chain. I wanted to. Okay, there's some other questions in the chat, and I also wanted to get to split testing as well because I know that there's a lot of good tools out there. But before we get to that, we have a couple of comments I'd like to highlight in the chat. Spark Secret, yes, I apologize. Jamie Paros' session is currently logged. We had a technical glitch. I apologize for the inconvenience. My team is working as quick as we can to get that fixed. So thanks for your patience. We're going to extend the viewing period just for you guys, in case you weren't able to see it. So I apologize for that. And Odavid Omar says, you guys recommend using the supplier's own shipping alternative or hiring a third-party freight forwarder or customs agent?
This is a big one, man, because I'll tell you what, there's another little nugget here that I'll drop here. People are always doing FOB. That's cool. Some people do Ex Works, but knowing your Incoterms is really important because that negotiation starts from the start. Don't get to the end of the manufacturing and work out what are we going to do here. We're going to send it, with my freight forwarder, with your freight forwarder. We're doing FOB. What are we doing? No. That Incoterm is, you need to get your head around that. That's responsibility for either all the supplier, half the supplier, half you, or all you. And that Incoterm is a price for that unit. It's built into the price of the unit. So whatever Incoterm or whatever shipping method you're using is the price of the unit per unit. People get that mixed up. They get to the end of the line and they get their their inspection done, their QC, and go, okay, what are we doing here? That's wrong. Everything's negotiated from the start. Whether you're doing the container surcharge method that I said to you, or you're working out with your freight forwarder, how much is it going to cost to bring a container to this factory? And they'll load it for you. The suppliers will load it for you. But how much is it going to bring? How much is it to bring a container to this factory? Now, if you've got a really trusted freight forwarder, they might say, hey, I can get that container to the factory and to the port for $600. But the difference between FOB and Ex Works might be $1.80 a unit, and you've ordered 2,000 units. The difference is like nearly $3,000. So the difference between going from FOB to Ex Works is $3,000, and the difference between your freight forwarder organizing everything or your manufacturers is only $600 for the pickup, and inclusive of their price. Good freight forwarder will do all the export paperwork for you. So people don't even know their pricing and their Incoterms of shipping to negotiate in the right way. It's very. I always use our freight forwarder if that's the question, because I know what costs are for containers to come to our warehouses, and then I can negotiate on the correct price per unit for the right Incoterm.
Yep. Great advice. All right, so let's move forward. Okay, we had another question about sourcing from Mexico. Claudia's in the process of sourcing products from Mexico. Do you have any advice for me? And do you know where to find a sourcing agent in Mexico? Thank you. So we do have a masterclass from Susana Bermudez, and she is an expert when it comes to sourcing from Mexico. That was just launched yesterday. So I believe the viewing period may still be available. If not, you can unlock it in the All Access Pass. Any other thoughts, guys? Any advice about sourcing from Mexico?
All
I
I,
will
Go ahead.
second what you said, Gary, about getting in touch with Susanna. We're in the early stages of working with her, and she's been wonderful. And so not all sourcing agents are created equal, and we've had a great experience with her.
Awesome.
I believe Amy Weiss is doing a whole sourcing trip in Mexico. So she has that coming up, I think, in April 5th or 6th, where you can actually go out to Mexico and meet a bunch of people. So
They actually switched the.
Yeah, I
They
was just
moved the dates. They moved it to June 4th.
really,
After literally
okay. I
5
spoke
days.
to her 2 days ago.
Yeah, 5 days after. 5 days after I bought the ticket, they moved it. Anthony, are you? I think you're speaking, right?
yeah, I booked my flight too, but yeah, they
Yeah.
pushed it back to June. But it
Yeah,
should be good.
Anthony and I are both speaking, and he has a. I think yours is what, Anthony 500. Mine would be Paul 500.
Yeah, and I think the really cool the really cool thing about that trip is so the beginning part is a sourcing trip, and it's actually sponsored by Alibaba. So they're organizing a ton of suppliers from Mexico to be there, and so this is a bit more DIY versus using a sourcing agent. But I guess if you're interested in sourcing from Mexico, then this would be a good opportunity to do a version of the trade shows that you might see in China, but for the first time in Mexico City is where the sourcing show is.
Yeah, if you guys are friends with Amy Weiss or Tim Jordan or Norm Farrar, because it's those three that are doing it, just shoot them a message on Facebook and ask them, because Anthony and I are just monkeys that are going to be on the trip. We don't really know much about it. All I know is that there's going to be there's the Mexico City portion, then there's the Cancun portion. The Cancun is like a mastermind portion. You can go to both. You can go to one. Tim was telling me that they're actually starting a whole fair. There's never been a sourcing fair or event or anything, and that's why Alibaba is getting behind it. And that's so crazy. So they're doing this whole giant event. Another thing that I would recommend too, if you can't afford to go to Mexico, nobody really knows about this event. It's called Sourcing at Magic, which is a free event to attend. It's in Las Vegas I'm pretty sure it's every August, but literally just Google it, Sourcing at Magic. Now, Magic is the largest fashion show in the world. The crazy thing though about the Sourcing at Magic is that you don't need to be, if you're a manufacturer, which we all are, quote unquote, right? You can get in for free. If you're going to just the sourcing event, you don't need to pay. And they have it all. It's not just fashion. There's home goods, there's sporting goods, there's outdoor goods, and it is a great opportunity for you to go check out what sourcing is like at a big fair, like the Canton Fair, something like that, on a smaller scale and in America. And again, it's the entry is free. So I would recommend, yes, I think it's Sourcing at Magic, and Magic with a C. So.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And before I moved out to Asia in 2008, I was selling women's shoes that I was selling on eBay from 2005 to 2008. And then I would literally go to Vegas to the Magic Show. So I've been on the trade floor, and you can actually, at that time when, we could travel, you could meet Chinese suppliers that flew all the way from China to Vegas. And I think if they're willing to get some skin in the game to pay, thousands of dollars on a flight and a hotel, they're probably serious about doing business. Right. So that's initial check as well. So, yeah.
I was going to say, we met, I forgot to mention this. They have it divided by country. It's not just China, but we met one of our Colombian factories actually at Sourcing at Magic.
Very cool. Very cool.
And
they have country specific regions. Right. So they have China, Vietnam, and, Latin America. Cool. Yeah. So highly recommend that.
Online event, it says February 1st through April 1st. So there's one online now you can go to.
Yeah. Excellent. And there's different industry fairs as well. There's a pet fair in Florida. There's ones in New York at Javits. Obviously, with COVID and everything, I don't know if it's still as extensive as before, but you can go online now. So that's awesome. All right. So let's keep going, guys. We're running out of time, and we still have so much more to cover. I wanted to quickly ask, talking about profitability, one of the tools, we have more and more tools available. So, David was speaking with me in the back room. Do you have any questions about that you'd like to present on our panel? I would love to keep this interactive. So if anyone on the panel has questions, feel free to go ahead and ask.
Absolutely. And I'm excited for this opportunity to ask anyone really this question. So I'm a huge fan of split testing. You will hear several times a week me telling my team, I'm not sure the answer to that, split test it. we're a huge fan of Amazon experiments, and actually our typical process is we'll get like 4 hero images, take them to PickFu, vote 2 off the island, and then run them through our Amazon campaigns. And so the one thing that, Amazon's never going to let you split test on price. And there are some tools out there that will allow you to, at the end of the day, your goal is to maximize net income. That's the score. And so, there has to be, I used to use a tool called Profit Peak, which was a Jungle Scout type of tool. And what I found was I was trying to get my ACOS dialed in while I was adjusting price. And those are 2 dependent variables that weigh pretty heavily on each other. And so it seemed like I'd move my price up and it would skew my ACOS, and I could never do it. So what we're doing now is we use Helium 10's profit tool, and we'll change price by $1, and then we'll look at BSR, and we'll do a 30-day look back. And our goal is profitability, overall profitability. I'm happy to sell half as many units at double the price. In fact, that's easier because I don't have to order as frequently. I have less returns. I mean, there's a good case to be made for not being in the volume game. And so there's a very long-winded way of asking, split testing price, what do you recommend?
We're in the pricing game. So one of the challenges doing it with software is that Amazon doesn't necessarily, at least at scale, give you the ability to look at information fast enough. Going to look back over a 30-day period and looking for profit optimization in the past is helpful, but can sometimes be misleading. And we find that Amazon's different than, selling at Walmart, like as I'm sure you know. And as these numbers start to go down, even though your volume looks like you're optimizing profit as your sales volume is going down, you can't stop that ball from rolling downhill, which is the problem. So you might see that, this price point looks great, but it's only great for that short-term window. And it is a very arrow-driven, rhythm type game on Amazon. So when you start seeing those numbers go down, you very often can't stop it from dropping. So trying to catch the wave up is, the same reason that upward spiral is great. The downward spiral is very tough to stop at that perfect price point. So every time we go down and think we've found that spot, I'm not going to say every time, there are times where it works out, but more often than not, that downward drop, you can't maintain that right level and it just falls off. So we really found that tracking velocity on the way up and moving slowly, like you said, in those 50-cent type increments, and tracking BSR and tracking really the velocity changes is really the best indicator of what's happening in the marketplace. You don't know what the customer is reacting to. People say like a competitor is higher priced or lower priced. You don't know if your price being higher than the competitor is what's making your item sell better. Possibly. It might look like it creates more value. So the best really indicator of if the customer likes your item ultimately is the velocity and the reference to that velocity over time. We try and map days of the week so that, things will sell differently on weekends, on Mondays, Tuesdays. So you try and really have to map each day of the week and the velocities of the day of the week when things are happening, and really try and stop items from dropping ultimately in velocity. And if you can achieve price increases while stopping drops in velocity, like that is really the holy grail. But accepting drops and this continuing to let it go down, we found is a recipe. We've done it and we've hurt ourselves and then learned to not do it again. And when you hurt yourself, it's much harder to climb back up the mountain. It costs you tons of extra money in PPC to try and say, oops, it fell off the cliff too far, and now you got to double and triple down to try and get back to where you were before.
When you measure the drop in velocity, Jamie, what would be like a benchmark, like a red flag before you shift?
Jason? You talking to Jason or?
What were you talking to? You said Jamie. You talking to what's
Yeah,
a
sorry.
red flag of velocity drop?
Yeah.
Jason. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're usually looking at any velocity drops of 10% or more. I mean, we have a whole weighted algorithm and averages that we look at, but we're weighting the most recent data a little bit heavier than over a 7-day period. You have to know the season of the item. Is it in peak season? Is it a regular flowing item? But if your item is a standard item and you start dropping more than 10-15% on your velocity, that's a sign that your price point is probably not working, and you should really go down. And then you can try again in a couple days, 4 or 5 days. If your velocity is working, maybe it'll work at a later time. But if you start to see those velocities dropping, then it's time to go back to where you were.
Excellent.
I would say we don't really monkey with price too much because our brand is extremely seasonal, and so there's that, and we also get a lot of press hits randomly, and so it's really hard to sort of gauge like what is the driver there. Is it an external press hit? Is there something that's driving external traffic? And then I mean, we've been doing this for 7 years now, so we know those seasonal fluctuations, minus pandemic insanity. And so that's where split testing is just hard because you like it's not a lab environment. You can't have everything being exactly the same. And so definitely I think the things that are easiest to split test, like you mentioned, David, would be like images. Like that's the easiest thing to split test. But the prices, like for me, I don't know.
Can I jump in and say, Gary, I know you probably want to move to another question, but when you think of things that are in your control that really impact profit, sales price that's totally in your control. Like when shipping costs go up, you have no control over that. And so to say, I am not going to split test the thing that I have the most control over, I am not going to touch it. That seems bananas to me. However, we haven't found a good way to do it. If you're selling ice skates, you can't compare a January to a July. It's a seasonal thing. And so I haven't found a good software out there to do it. And that's, anyway, that's where I'm at.
That's where we've done it manually. We just look at, because again, our stuff is year over year. We can't use a 30-day over 30-day. It just doesn't work for our brand. So, and that's another thing, like the gentleman that asked earlier, knowing your market, and then there's a certain amount of seasoning. Like even I would say we didn't even understand the market 2 or 3 years in, because 2 and 3 years in we were still this super hyper growth one. We are growing quite a bit, but now we have enough season on our established ASINs that we know when something's weird. And so when we raised prices last year because we had to keep our margins. We didn't notice a significant decrease in sales. And what are significant to us would be just looking year over year and not including 2020 as a sample year, because that's just
I think, David, your terminology for split testing is maybe not the right word. I think it's more of an always testing, because split testing is time, and the other variables, like Paul is saying, are just all over the place. If there's another promotion or he's doing things that are external, but testing in in some sort of an intelligent fashion is, I think, a must also. And like when I hear Paul say that he holds his pricing stable, that is, to me, makes sense for your own website potentially. But like the Amazon marketplace is, like, I'm a big believer, like you see as well, David, that you have to try and push the envelope, but we just push it as often as possible, as opposed to split testing an item and then settling on that. Because what made sense split testing over the last 30 days is not necessarily reflective over what's going to happen in the coming 30 days. So it really is a constant evolution of testing and retesting pricing to find that sweet spot literally every day of the year, as opposed to based on, what happened 30 days ago and then let that ride for another 60 days. It's just, things are too dynamic on Amazon to just pick pricing from before and then just go with it. It's not like an image,
Yeah.
One thing I'll just add real quickly. Sorry, Paul. I think it depends on the niche, depends on the product, depends on the price point too. Like there's so much. You can look at one niche and you're looking at a certain type of product in that niche, and it's, it could be a battle to the bottom or, a battle in the middle or whatever's going on there. And then you look at another niche and it's just totally different. For our ASINs, we're at the top of the price point for every product in the niche. We're at the top of the price point. And we've just pushed that envelope until we go, hey, we're going too far. We've got to pull it back manually, and we just come back. But it comes down to the product that we've picked, the enhancements, the USP, the unique selling proposition, all that stuff comes into it. It's very nuanced to start talking about testing in a split test way. Like I said, it's hard for us. But, if you want to ask me where our price point is, we're at the top of everybody in the whole niche. Probably the most expensive in every product that we have.
The only thing I was going to say is I think that Jason and I had this conversation, and it's like one of those things that I forget about. I'm like, yeah, we really need to do that, because realistically we could raise our prices in the summer, which is actually our busiest season, because the demand is higher, which that's basic economics, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for your feedback on this. I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Yeah. I love how, like, even these experienced 7-figure sellers sitting on the panel, they're getting value out of this, right? So imagine, Paul, maybe just had like a light bulb moment, like, hey, this summer we're going to raise our prices, right? I mean,
we can make another $100,000 in June.
Yeah, I mean, you can make another 100,000. You can come back, in the fall, and you can share your story, Paul.
Right.
What I learned from the 7-figure seller summit as a 7-figure seller. I wish we had more time, guys. I mean, this is gold. I mean, I love what everyone is sharing, from supply chain to pricing to sourcing to branding. I mean, all these things boil down to profitability, guys. I just wanted to thank everybody for their time today. And what's the best way we can connect with you guys to learn more? Let's start with Jamie.
Just if you want to check us out on the Endgame network for our Amazon group, it's more for Australasia, but we try and look after everyone down here. But yeah, just reach out to me on Facebook or wherever you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, anywhere. That's cool.
Excellent. And as we had mentioned earlier, Jamie has generously offered 10% off a ShipSavvy Pro yearly subscription, 7FSS 10 off at shipsavvy.com, which is a mouthful. Thank you, Jamie. And Jason, what is the best way to connect with you, sir?
You could find me on LinkedIn, or you could go to azsellerkit.com. Pretty much most of those emails that get fielded by myself and my partner. And we're doing a promotion for the 7-Figure Seller Summit of 25% off your first month of AZ Seller Kit for all of your regular users. And then the premium users are getting a month free of the AZ Seller Kit through the 7-Figure Seller Summit.
Awesome. So azsellerkit.com, everyone's getting 25% off your first month. And for all the All Access Pass holders, you guys are going to get 1 free month. So thank you so much. All right. And David, what is the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, if you want to check out the podcast, it's Firing the Man, anywhere podcasts are played, on social media at Firing the Man. And if you want to get in touch with me, it's David at firingtheman.com.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We didn't really touch upon what David shared at the summit, so I highly recommend you guys check out his session with his business partner, Ken, how they were able to self-manufacture in the US. And David also is offering a free bonus to everyone, Firing the Man Profitability Calculator. So that's another way that you guys can maximize your profitability. And I will put the link in the chat for you guys there. Thank you, David. And last but not least, our friend Paul Barron. What's the best way to connect?
Find me on Facebook. My website's thechatagency.com. We're really obsessive about building audiences for you, leveraging chat, influencer marketing, that sort of stuff. So I got a mastermind coming up here, actually in your neck of the woods, Jamie, in Fiji.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in October.
Yeah.
So I'm super stoked about this. It's going to be like 7-figure seller. Like, I'm super stoked about it. But yeah, so thechatagency.com.
Awesome. Great. And then Paul also is offering a copy of his slides from his masterclass. So I'm going to share that link in the chat as well for you guys if you want to grab that. All right.
The all access people are going to get, I'm doing a couple SOPs and then $500 off a brand audit. Which is basically
Awesome.
our
Thank you
price.
so much. So speaking of the all access pass, guys, if you haven't already upgraded, I highly recommend that you do. You can get bonuses like what Paul is offering with the additional SOPs. You can get additional month free from AMZ Seller Kit, from Jason, and also you get all of the master classes unlocked. You'll have unlimited access and you'll get transcripts as well. So highly recommend that you guys check out that. All right, sevenfiguresellersummit.com/order. All right, guys, we're out of time. So thank you everybody for coming on again. This has been super valuable. I learned a lot. I'm sure our audience did too. So much appreciated. Jamie, Jason, Paul, and David. We hope to see you guys back soon. Have a great rest of the year with the business. And thank you everybody for watching. We will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow will be all about exits, the end game for a lot of people, how to sell your business, how to maximize it. We have sessions from Thrasio, from buyers. We have sessions from brokers and also real sellers sharing their exit stories, their wins and also some of the mistakes they've made along the way. So definitely don't miss out. I think that's going to be a huge thing for a lot of people. All right. So thank you again, everybody. We will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.